Hello and welcome back to Toronto's Distillery District. I'm saying welcome back because those of you who've been to the channel before know that I often do my color tests here, and that's exactly what I'm supposed to be doing today, but it seems I'm doing more of an audio test because we got sirens and we got high winds and all kinds of craziness. Yeah, let's get to those color tests. So just to cut to the chase, and you probably gathered from the title anyway, I in no way regret my move from the A7C to the FX30. It's been a fantastic experience so far using this camera. My only apprehension was its lack of the EVF, which I'm accustomed to with the A7C and all my other cameras. The screen is just amazing. It just, light years ahead of the screen on the A7C, which is of course, lacking quite a bit. And I mean, the brightness and everything, it was a bright day today. I had no problem seeing the screen. I had the neutral variant of the Phantom LUTs loaded into the camera, so I had a rough idea of what I was going to get out of the camera once I got back here. That worked beautifully, and it was very easy to set up, and just usability overall with the new menu system that Sony put into these cameras, and the fact you can actually go through the menus using the touch screen rather than me just being relegated to touch to focus on the A7C. The full-size HDMI port, I was always very sort of leery about how often I would take out the micro HD and put it back in when using my A7C in this environment. I'm always worried that I was going to break the port, and used it very gingerly, and so it gives me a lot more confidence having that full-size HDMI port. Another thing, the dual card slots. I've been part of the debate about whether or not a dual card slot is necessary. A very good friend of mine, a professional photographer who has shot celebrity weddings and just an amazing talent, he shot for years with only one card slot in his Canon, and he actually, of course, like many of us did, shot with film before that. There was no redundancy back then, when you were shooting film. But having, redundant recording, it is still one of those peace of mind things, and I'm happy to have it. So that's another thing over the A7C. The overall build quality of the camera, it's built like a tank, and I really love the fact it's got that fan. I'm not concerned with overheating. With the A7C, I actually had never worried too much about that either. I had it set to high temperature on the A7C. I think I had just maybe a couple occasions when that it might have said something, but I never had an issue with any shutdowns or anything like that. The only time my camera's ever shut down is when I've let it run out of juice, so that's. And another thing too, battery life is just as expected with these the awesome Z series batteries. So I just remembered to put my Tiffin Black Pro Mist on my camera. I normally have a Tiffin Black Pro Mist 1/4 on my camera when I do these talking head segments. I remembered it because my next topic about this camera, the FX30, is with regards to image sharpness. I had kind of a lump in my throat. A silly thing. I shouldn't have been worried. I should have realized it was something that I was doing wrong. I had a little bit of a lump in my throat when I was comparing the image quality for these talking head sequences between the FX30 and my a7C. I just found the a7C a lot sharper. Well, it turns out in-camera image sharpening was the culprit. I had the picture profile I was using on the a7C set to 0 on the detail level. For those of you who use Sony cameras or know them well enough, you'll know that 0 means that sharpening is still being applied. Something I was well aware of is that you actually have to go below 0 to get rid of in-camera image sharpening. Totally forgot that I had the level set to 0 in my a7C, and by default it was turned off in my FX30. So that is actually something that I prefer. I rather add image sharpening if it's going to be artificial in post. I don't want it baked into my footage. So I'm leaving my FX30 as is, and if I need it any sharper, I can always do that in post, and so that was the culprit. So as I said, that beautiful LCD does sort of make up for the lack of an EVF, which I would love on this camera, but then it would sort of probably change the form factor as well. I wouldn't necessarily want them to implement EVF like they did on the a7C for this camera, but I do love the form factor of this camera, and I think it's fine the way it is, and it has been a pleasure to use that LCD in lieu of an EVF, which I normally shoot with, I guess. The only other gripe I have with this camera, or the only real gripe I have at all with this camera, is the Bluetooth connectivity. I am sort of tied to turning the camera off and on with some sort of remote connection because I'm shooting APS-C with a 30mm lens. So I've been using this cheap Bluetooth control. If you guys are familiar, this company JJC has this Bluetooth remote that works very well with Sony cameras, at least most of them. It worked seamlessly with my a7C, going through all my menus, you know, making sure that Bluetooth was on and Bluetooth remote was turned on in my camera. The FX30 still does not recognize this remote. I've tried over and over again. I probably spent 2 hours one night just trying to get this to connect with my FX30. It will not. It connected beautifully with my a7C. If anyone out there knows what might be going on, please you know, leave that in the comments below, because I'd really like to know what's going on with this. I'd like to continue using this. It's been great. So how am I connecting to the camera remotely with my phone? Not the greatest. That Bluetooth connection drops off and on, it seems, whenever it wants. So it's not a reliable way to connect. Not as reliable as this was when I was using this with the a7C. So the only real gripe I have is Bluetooth connectivity. What is going on with the FX30? Why is the Bluetooth functionality not working like I would expect? The other Bluetooth test that will come next is how it works with my RS3 Mini, because it's got, of course, the Bluetooth trigger on the gimbal. Hopefully no issues there. So, as usual, I hope you guys got something out of this one. If so, please leave me a thumbs up. If not, that's okay too. If you would like to make sure you don't miss any of these, please consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. Make sure your notifications are turned on. And until next time, oh yeah, and remember, anybody who knows what might be going on with this, let me know in the comments below, all right? And if you got any future show ideas as well, put those in the comments below. Anyway, until next time, keep working and make your chosen idea a reality. Peace.